Not sure if my audio is working. If it is, let me know. Oh,
I wish to.
hold on. I just want to talk about good stuff, no negative. Is my sound working? No, it's not. What is wrong with my sound?
Is my sound working? No,
Can you
it's
hear me?
not. What is wrong with my
I
sound?
think it is.
Is
I
my
think it is.
sound working? Can you hear me?
Well, the good news is Max is not dead. He may look dead. He may act dead. And he may smell dead, but he is not dead. Hey, look at how many people I got in here. Hello, so and so. Hello, you. Hello there. Bye. Thank you for coming. And thank you. Oh, thank you, Max, for showing us that you are alive, that you're not dead. Yes. Thank you, Max. This is MaxiPad. 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 I got some good news. Okay, I'll wait until he comes in. I got some really good news. Really good news. Uh, wow. I like that Useless Farms. Have you seen that? Is there anybody here? Somebody else is probably doing a live, and I and they're all over there. I don't blame them. Who wants to come here to my measly channel? Look at Max. He's alive. I'll find useless farm. I love this gal. She's got those African birds. They're dangerous and they will kill you. Oh, I know what's wrong here. I'm on the long. Anyway, she's got some cute, really funny videos that she has. I like the one where she says that she said, "What part of Stitches do you not understand?"
In my last video, implying that Karen offed her last 3 husbands. They definitely died of natural causes.
Karen is that bird.
To be totally honest with you, she just told me snitches get stitches, and that's not something that I'm mentally prepared for today. I took it back, Karen. What more do you want from me?
That's a dangerous.
I wish to retract the statement I made in my last video, implying that Karen offed her last 3 husbands.
Isn't she funny?
They definitely died of natural causes. To be totally honest with you, she just told me snitches get stitches, and that's not something that I'm mentally prepared for today.
She is hilarious.
Karen, what more do you want from me?
I'll wait until somebody comes in before I start my funny.
I wish to retract the statement I made in my last video, implying that Karen offed her last 3 husbands. They definitely died of natural causes. To be totally honest with you, she just told me snitches get stitches, and that's not something that I'm mentally prepared for today. I took it back, Karen. What more do you want from me? to retract the statement I made in my last video implying that Karen offed her last 3 husbands. They definitely died of natural causes. To be totally honest with you, she just told me snitches get stitches, and that's not something that I'm mentally prepared for today. I took it back, Karen. What more do you want from me? I wish to retract the statement I made in my last video.
If you're here,
Karen
can you
her last 3 husbands.
just make a
They
comment so I know
definitely
somebody's
died
here?
of
It says
natural
2,
causes.
but I don't know if that's me and Larry.
To be totally honest with you, she just told me
Hold
snitches
on, I'll
get
be right
stitches,
back.
and that's not something that I'm mentally prepared for today. I took it back, Karen. What more do you want from me? I wish to retract the statement I made in my last video implying that Karen offed her last 3 husbands. They definitely died of natural causes. To be totally honest with you, she just told me snitches get stitches, and that's not something that I'm mentally prepared for today.
This is
I
totally
took it back,
useless
Karen. What more do you want
farms.
from me?
She's hilarious. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna.
I wish to
You have to see her.
retract the
Useless
statement I
farm
made in my last video
on TikTok. And Dodo. She's a beautiful woman. Anyway, I have a book I want to read from. I bought it about 40 years ago. I guess that dates me. I'm old. I'm 70 years old. Okay, yeah, my sound is live. And that is not a dead cat. Yep, that's Max. He's also known as Relax Max because he likes to relax. And he'll relax just about in any position. I have a beautiful upholstered comforter, but the cats like to scratch it too much. So, yeah, he's flicking his ears, so he's totally alive. I like this book. It's called Even the Angels Must Laugh. You know, God gave us laughter. He doesn't always want us to be solemn and sad. And there's appropriate times to be solemn and sad. And there are sad things. There's a lot of bad things going on in this world. But it says, warning, do not read this book in church. Trying not to laugh out loud when reading these stories may result in ruptured internal organs. Is that a pump organ, pipe organ, or your organs? Introduction to unexpected humor. Somehow it never seemed to me that for all his wisdom, Solomon caught the full significance of our out of sync time for laughter. In his famous comment about the seasonal things of life, he simply stated that there is a time to laugh. But it's a lot more hilarious when it's not time. It always seems funnier when humor comes at the right angles to a solemn, worshipful situation. I think of the first time to this realization after choking and crying, and I desperately tried to suppress my laughter during a church service several years ago. It happened in a small country church, one of those compressed sanctuaries in which the pulpit and pews fit together tightly. Not so much as a good eye contact, but merely to crowd in more people. It was a hot summer day, and all the windows stood open for the sorely needed cross ventilation. That staid Scandinavian, who made up the bulk of the congregation, sat impassively listening to their favorite old-time lay preacher intoning some sure and comfortable theology. Yeah, right. In the midst of his sermon, Mr. Swanson sagely asked a rhetorical question. I can't recall what he actually queried, but I distinctly do remember this, that as if in answer, a cow mooed right on cue. The bovine sound effects came through the open window behind the pulpit. This set me up. I put my hand to my mouth, but more was to follow. Swanson, hard of hearing as he was, only leaned forward in the pulpit and cupped his ear. How's that again, brother? He asked seriously. I couldn't hold it. Grabbing my handkerchief, I stuffed it in my mouth. My wife nudged me, but it was no use. I knew she had better control and would somehow save her laughter for later when she could have a good belly laugh at home. Not me. I suffered intense gagging and tears. My head grew hot, and I sensed my face was red from effort from holding in check the happy sounds I wanted so much to make. What I made was worse, was the fact that all the saints sat soberly looking straight ahead, sedately listening as if nothing ever happened. Since that time, I've been on the lookout for others who have experienced similar moments, moments when laughter has inadvertently elbowed its way into worship. I asked evangelists, pastors, and church goers in general all over the country to share with me. Laughter knows no denominational barriers. But I have asked, but I've always hastened to add to my quest that I definitely do believe in reverence. It's just that I have a sneaking hunch even the angels sometimes must bend over in laughter over the unexpected. Some of these are really funny. I've read through them long ago. It's been a long time since I read these stories, but I remember this one. The hazards of baptism. My friends and family know I'm always on the prowl for true unpublished stories. One day, my youngest daughter phoned. Dad, she laughed, you'd have cracked up today in church. During a baptism, one of the older ladies lost her wig. The pastor picked it up like some drowned rat and picked it up like some drowned rat and handed it to her as she stepped out of the water. We had to sing about 24 hymns before she'd come out to meet the congregation. It was too funny. I imagined it. Baptisms, I discovered, have a special built in mechanism for potential humor. I can only visualize what I would have suffered had I been attending a little Southern Baptist church in backcountry Georgia during a morning they had scheduled a husband and wife immersion. From what I was told, it was one of those cozy arrangements in which the deacons have to move the pulpit, lift the floorboards, and expose the baptistry. Sheets were hung over wires to form a dressing room on each side of the baptismal tank. The husband had already been baptized and returned to change his clothes. When his overweight wife descended the rickety stairs into the water, but the last step cracked and collapsed on her. As she lunged forward, staggering past the pastor, her arms wildly thrashed out for something to grab. She caught the sheet on the opposite side and tore it down, exposing her shocked husband to the whole congregation. As he stood there in the buff, and poor guy was buck naked, he made a quick and stunning decision. Diving headfirst into the baptistry, he disappeared from sight. I can only imagine how many hymns they had to sing to bring that congregation back into line after that performance. Uninvited persons into the baptistry are unusual, but when it does happen, the ceremony takes on a new meaning. I got a new microphone, so hopefully it sounds good. Put a 1 if it sounds good. Put a 1 if it sounds bad. Put a 1 if you think the cat's dead. Put a 1 if you smells dead. That's Relax Max. One of his videos went viral one time. Relax Max. Relax Max. Do you know why we call him Relax Max? Because he looks like this all the time, especially when it's cold out and we have a roaring fire in the fire pit. With a wood stove, he lays there and just, Relax Max. Okay, here's another one. With the pulpit moved to one side and the floorboards lifted up, the particular church's fairly wide platform was much narrower, but the old gentleman slated to offer the benediction chose to remain in his seat on the rostrum during the baptismal anyway. At least he intended to remain in the seat. With so many being baptized that day, the elder grew weary from his straight back position and began leaning in his chair against the wall. As time passed, he started teetering the chair slightly, but once the teeter wasn't slight enough, in a flash he was upended, with legs extended upward and hands. Gotta turn the page. I'll tell you a story about turning the page. Frantically grasping for invisible handles, he went fully closed into the baptistry. For those in the congregation who had temporarily glanced away, it seemed like a fantastic disappearing act. The first rule for rural baptism is to notify all participants when the floorboards are removed. The second is to maintain composure at all costs if they aren't. Relax, Max. One little deaconess, whose sole job was to supply towels to both curtained-off dressing rooms, began her duties in earnest as she passed back and forth with armloads of towels. But between one of her passes across the front, when her back was turned, the deacons lifted up the floorboard. Without a glance, the deaconess turned and headed back the way she had come, but this time her path led straight into the water. She didn't resort to water walking, and she didn't scream or back away. She went right in without so much as a flicker. Her firm facial expression, resolutely wading across the baptistry, she never lost in stride. Still holding the towels up high, she climbed the steps on the opposite side and continued her duties as if nothing had happened. It would have been hard to match that for total composure. Somehow these rural churches with the hidden baptistry beneath the rostrum never seem to lend themselves in the sanctity of a baptism. At least the preliminaries can certainly be distracting. During one morning service, I watched in dismay as the deacons grunted and strained to slide the pulpit to one side and lift the floorboards. The clouds of steam that rose from the baptistry led one of the deacons to lean over to test the water. Ouch! His loud cry shattered the sanctuary. Before the congregation could recover from the outburst, he grabbed a huge paddle from the adjoining room and began stirring the water vigorously. From that moment on, my mind kept fighting to focus on reverence instead of conjuring up all sorts of scenarios of a blistered minister and lobster red candidates emerging from the baptistry one by one. But my small country churches certainly don't have a corner on potentially humorous situations. Let me share something that happened recently in a plush suburban setting. The church had installed a glass section in the lower part of the baptistry so that the congregation could witness the underwater activity during immersion. Apparently, bubbles and bloated faces are more meaningful for many folks, adding a special dimension to the sacred rite. But this time, the whole congregation was afforded a far more visual excitement than was originally scheduled. The first man baptized arose from the water, totally confused, and headed up the stairs to the ladies' dressing room. By the time he realized his mistake, ding! Another candidate had taken his place in the water. He patiently waited behind the curtain for the right moment. Just as the party slipped under the water, he went into action, but the audience never saw the baptism. Their wondering eyes beheld only black-robed body desperately swimming underwater across the baptistry. Anyway, that's 23 minutes, and I'm tired. I wanted to share some good news with you. My husband's been battling some weight loss, and they did a PET scan, and they found a nodule on his thyroid, which is in a radiated area. His thyroid was covered, but still the radiation can scatter, and it did. It is scattered, and it caused my husband's thyroid to change. But they said it doesn't look like cancer, so it doesn't warrant a biopsy. So he did not have a biopsy. And they said that, they're pretty confident that this is just from the radiation causing the change to his thyroid. He'll still have to deal with his thyroid and weight loss, but a lot of the weight loss is he has hard time eating because of his tongue cancer. He's had over 2/3 of his tongue cut out. The tongue does grow back. It does. He's like a lizard. We call him Lizard Man. We've had to make all kinds of funny jokes about that because it's just so sad. And he's been a brave, brave man. Never whines about self. He's a very godly man. You would love my husband as I have loved him since I was a teenager. Can you believe that? He's a good man. He's a penny pincher, though. Oh, I have something. I found, my good friend Martina, my dearest friend, lifelong friend, Lolita, died 4.5 years ago. And that just shattered me. And then there was Martina. So there was Lolita, me, and Martina that kind of pelled around. We went to the same church, and we'd do the same activities, and we'd go to the beach or go to the mountains, go on picnics, and we'd have dinners at each other's houses, and we really enjoyed each other's company. So there was Lolita, me, and Martina. Martina and I are both dark-haired, brown-eyed. Lolita's blonde. Of course, we always called her the dingbat because she was blonde. Lovely person. She really is a wonderful person. But WAB, Boss Frances. Hello. Thank you for showing up. Anyway, I'm doing a little tribute to Martina. Martina died first. Lolita died 4.5 years ago. So it's just me and Martina left. And Martina's been struggling with a failed spinal surgery and her back. She's been in a care facility for many, many years and just gaining weight. And it's just been bad. And she got a urinary infection. And yes, they can be deadly. And that is what Martina died of, is a urinary tract infection. So I've been looking for pictures to put on the little tribute that I have about Martina. I'll be posting that, and also for Lolita. And I was reading this that I had written on some of my papers. Pictures was August 4, and it was a trip that my husband and I had taken with, before we were married, we'd taken it with Larry's folks, and we drove up to Hood Canal from San Diego, because we had a family cabin up at Hood Canal, right on the water. So we left Friday morning. We left San Diego Friday morning, 4:30 a.m. August 4th. Stopped for breakfast in Castiac, then drove till noon. Stopped for gas and had to wait in line for gas. There were at least 50 people waiting to buy gas. That is what I wrote. Can you believe that? 50 people waiting to buy gas. So I think we're going to go back to gas rationing like we did back then. But anyway, thank you for joining me. And I'll read this again. That's called Even the Angels Must Laugh. And there's many funny stories in here. I believe God wants us to laugh. And of course, he wants us to praise him and worship him. And it can't always be fun and giggles, but there's reverence, times to be reverent and time to worship. And also, like Solomon said, there's a time to laugh, there's a time to cry, there's a time to heal, and there's a season for everything. And though this was a hard season, COVID season, I believe the COVID virus is going to be around for a lot longer than what we thought. Um, I like Walter Veith. If you look up Walter Veith and Professor Smith and Dr. Wolfgang Wolberg, he's a virologist, and he talked about how the COVID is going to be around 11 years from start to finish, and that it will morph and become deadly. And we've seen that. And so we're only into this 3 years. We've got 9 more years to go. I believe what he says. So, and then there's more stuff happening. Look at our sun. We're about ready to have a EMP. I believe we're going to have a grid, power grid, because if we have another Carrington event, an electrical magnetic pulse from the sun like we had back in 1859, it will wipe out every satellite and our power grid will go down. Can you imagine being sent back to the 1800s? It could happen. I pray it doesn't. Anyway, and then the war that we got going on, oh my goodness, pray for those. And a lot of people are having trouble. They're sad, they're crying. I have a gal that lives near me, and they're remodeling the house that they bought. they've been there a year and haven't moved in yet. She's got two special needs children that she watches. And she came to me just sobbing her heart out. She can't take it anymore. And she says she can't find anything. She couldn't even find her Bible. And she wants to read her Bible, and she says she knows she needs the Lord really bad, and she needs a friend. And she doesn't have her mom. She lost her mom and her stepmom in 1 year, and she says, "Can you be my mom?" So anyway, I haven't told her yet, but I bought her a really nice Bible, and I had her name inscribed in it. And it's just a beautiful Bible, and I hope she really likes it. It's leather bound, so it's an in-depth study Bible. So um, it's kind of a burgundy color. Anyway, God bless you, and thank you for stopping by and for listening to me. And I pray that you will subscribe and join my channel. Thank you, and God bless. I hope you got a blessing from this. And a laugh, too, because the angels must laugh.